And welcome to the show. My name is Anthony Barocas, and I am here in Dallas, Texas, and I welcome you all to today's show about encoding and multicasting. Let me step out for 1 second and turn this little thing off because I can hear it. Thank you for all being here, and I am excited. So I wanted to follow up on last week's show because the shows are available after the fact. So if you miss any of the live shows, you can go back on YouTube in the live tab and then see all the previous shows with all of the previous topics. I'm going to do just one more thing. It's a little warm here under the lights, so I had to put the other fan on. And last week, what we did was we did a remote guest with a cell phone, and that is the way you can work around the remote guest lack of Mixminus in the YoloBox, is by being a remote guest yourself into the program and then just using the YoloBox to do the mixing of remote guests. And that way, when you monitor from the remote guest phone, I was using an iPhone 12 and I have this audio adapter. I can disconnect it here because we're not doing that today. But as you can see, I've got power, I've got this audio adapter so that I can listen to the audio coming from the phone. I'm not listening to the audio coming from here. But as we found out, the audio would get glitchy over time. And because I have Mixminus and I don't hear myself, I can't hear, or I couldn't hear the show last week where my audio was getting a little glitchy in the remote guest web interface. And interestingly enough, I was working on another project for another client using a desktop mixing application. They have a whole web portal, and one of their clients was coming into their portal. It's not StreamYard. I don't even know what it is. It's a completely bespoke thing. And they were using a web browser, and they had the exact same problem on a laptop where they were using a web browser, and it would get glitchy. Just these audio clicks and artifacts in the audio from this remote guest. And then we asked them to refresh the browser, and then it was clear. It was perfectly fine. And then over the course of time, those glitches and artifacts would come back. So it's not unique to YoloBox. It happens. It's a thing. Streaming is hard. And as easy as the YoloBox makes streaming, there are still idiosyncrasies and little challenges that are common throughout. Like today, Peter J. Miller let me know that the stream is a little stuttery today, and that was correct. It says I've got a 1% drop now because I paused and restarted the stream. And those are things that you can kind of get by with ASP, which is let's go to my laptop. If you were on Yolo, if you were using Yolocast to do the stream, there is this thing called Ardent Streaming Protocol, or ASP. And what ASP does is ASP takes your content that you're creating and fills up a buffer on your YoloBox. You've got a cache. So you're using the SD card or USB or whatever it is, removable media, to create a buffer on your device. And then you're simultaneously streaming it to a receiving end in the Yolocast servers. And that's going to fill up a buffer of like a whole minute. And then out of the bottom of that bucket, basically it's like a big container of water. You're filling up the top with water, and you fill it all the way up with water. And then where it goes to YouTube and wherever else you want to go to, that's coming out of the bottom of the bucket. And then what happens is if your data rate drops, or you've got some hinky-jinky whatever going on in between you and the server, it's going to keep playing out of that bucket. It's going to keep playing out of that bucket for up to a whole minute. You could completely lose your internet connection for a whole minute. It's going to keep playing out of that keep playing out of that bucket, and then when you get your connection back, it's going to start filling it back up from the top, and it's going to fill that back up because while you couldn't make it, it's filling up that buffer in the YoloBox. And when you can reestablish connection, it then sends over all that data and fills that bucket back up on the receiving end. It's kind of complex. I hope that description helped a little bit because today's show is all about encoding and streaming. And ASP is a great tool, and I don't use it for this show because it's a live show, and this is all about audience feedback. You drive the show. If you have a question, I need to know your question as fast as possible. There's already a 20-second delay between me talking and you seeing me ask a question on Facebook and then typing out an answer. So there's already a delay. If I add another minute-long delay, having a dialogue between you and me becomes very difficult. So I choose to not use ASP for these shows because of this dialogue. So there is a way to solve problems if your goal is just to deliver a more robust and resilient stream. My goal here in this show is to sacrifice some robustness and resilience for immediacy, for the fact that you can hear what I'm saying as quick as possible and respond in the comments and ask questions and follow up and things like that. So I just want to explain that as a possible solution to what we're seeing today and what you may be encountering in your streams, and also explain why I don't use the solution that's available. So it's always a choice, because you could do many things, but you may choose not to. Like the YoloBox, this box right here has the ability to do live streaming. Here, let me create a new show. New show. You can create a new show, and then we're going to go into this show. And I can go in here, and I don't have bonding available, but I could activate bonding, and I could have a built-in cellular connection and a Wi-Fi connection and an Ethernet connection. I could have 3 connections. But that means that I need to have those, need to be paying for and have those connections available all the time. And that could be set up. I don't know why I don't have one of these set up. Me and this thing. And I'm just setting up a multi-view here, which is typically set up, but apparently it's not set up right now. Done. There we go. So the bonding is a very good solution. It enables you to add this on where needed. So if you only have a quarterly event or something like that, you can add a month 20 gigabytes. And gigabytes is a lot, because remember, you're streaming in megabits, not bytes. And the bits to bytes is divided by 8. So you can figure out the math depending upon what your data rate is times the length of time of your show is your whole megabits, then divide by 8 gives you megabytes, and then 20 gigabytes is 20,000 megabytes. So it's a lot. And you can then choose to add that on a moment by moment basis, but I don't do enough on location work. I'm actually doing most of my work right now is remote. I'm using a desktop machine and people are connecting into the cloud, and I'm managing the cloud and I'm sending it out. I've done 6 projects in the past couple weeks and they've all been cloud. And actually tomorrow we're a new cloud solution for possible use in the future, and that is where that work is right now. If I'm on location, then hey, yeah, bonding could be a great solution, and I can add it. That's the cool thing about the way YOLO Live packages the network bonding, is that's an a la carte. You can add it or you can not. You can sign up for an annual plan or monthly, because everybody's needs are different. Everybody's stream is different. So before I get too far ahead, let me go through and say hello to everyone. We have Vishvakarma. Vishvakarma is in India. Deval Video is in Boston. Mason Webb TV is watching from Washington State. Uriah is, again, in Israel. Great to have you back. Peter, who I mentioned earlier, is in the Southwest United Kingdom. Chris Pelser is in South Africa. The McGee Academy of Arts and Sciences is in Pico Rivera, California. I can read. The Crossworks is in Montgomery, Alabama. Video Streams is in rainy Texarkana. Oh, wow. Okay, at least it's raining over in Texarkana. Has not started to rain here. We are actually forecast for rain in Texas. We haven't had a good solid rain here in the Dallas area in months. Birds Insect has not told me. Oh, maybe you have, but I'd like to know where everybody's watching from. Let's come down here. And I apologize. Otsi Seyagomo as in Botswana. And I am sure I massacred your name, and I apologize. But I try. I'm giving it a shot. Andrew Brown is watching from Uranus. Seal Beach, California. And Martin Graff is from sunny Phoenix, Arizona. And those three just came in as I started the roll call. And that's an example of the fact that this quick dialogue is I'm able to put them in as soon as you see it and then, write something. I'm able to put those things right in. And of course, Hector chimes in. He's in sunny Puerto Rico. I'm going to assume it's sunny because it's Puerto Rico. Kirk Riley is in Dallas, Texas. One of these days, Kirk and I should have lunch because I am just north of Dallas. There are a couple questions that came in. And as always, this is an open show. You help drive the show. So if you have streaming questions, and they don't have to be YoloBox related, you can put those questions in the comments, and I will do my best to answer them. If I don't know the answer, I will tell you that I don't know the answer. And if I really don't know the answer, Uriah will probably know the answer because he's a really smart guy. Boo, 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 boo. Does owning more than one YoloBox Mini or any of the YoloBox devices, streaming device that controls the video, is there ability to have more than one live video output? I'm just trying to parse the question a moment. Each device has one encoder. So you can encode one program, one camera signal, one shot. Like this shot of me in front of this background. This is my program. This is what gets recorded, and this is what gets streamed from this one box. If you have more than one, yes, you can be streaming two different streams of two different shots of two different programs to two different locations or to the same location. The other interesting thing is if you are streaming to the internet, and I can add a source here. One of the things here is over there is live stream. If you have two devices on the same account, those streams are actually visible to each other. So if you have, like I'm doing a show in Dallas, and I wanted to have the United Kingdom is doing a show as well, and we wanted to incorporate their show into our show. If they were logged into my YOLO Live account and streaming through the YOLO Live server, then that stream would be available. I would tap on that and it's going to look and it says there's no other active live streams on account. If there were, they would literally show up here. I could have a bunch of them and then select different cities in turn. One at a time, I could select them all. They're all available to me as remote sites, as sources, which is a very cool feature that a lot of people don't think of, is the fact that your YOLO Live account gives you, it's an ecosystem. It's not just this box. If I create a project on this box, this project is also going to show up on another box. And if I have the assets, I can move shows around. There are some restrictions to that, as I found recently. When I tried to do a show using my account on another YoloBox Pro in Amsterdam for IBC, I hope you saw those IBC shows, the titles that I made in those shows in my YOLO box did not appear magically in the YOLO box I was using in Amsterdam. I brought my media with me, but the lower thirds, like, bringing this up, this was not built, it did not suddenly make its way into that other YOLO box. So you can see your shows, but there's no data that gets transferred between the devices magically. Your show exists, but your titles don't magically transport from one device to another. It would be really cool if they did. And maybe that's something we could ask for if you are a member of the official YOLO Live user group on Facebook, where the YOLO Live team actually do interact with end users like you and me. You can talk to them in this group. Also, if you are on Facebook, know that we have a YOLO Live tech channel on YouTube, where this is also being broadcast, but that's where all of the video tutorials, live shows, and everything are kept, and they're super easy to find. And lastly, if you are native Spanish speaking, we have, oops, wrong one. Let's go right here. You have YOLO Live in Español, another Facebook group that for just conversation in Spanish. And then lastly, I'll fade that one out early, and you could contact YOLO Live directly at contact@yololive.com. So that stuff out of the way, back to our comments and questions. Good evening. I am Mustasem in Jordan. Good evening. Great to have you watching from Jordan. Birds Insect says he just bought a YoloBox Original a few days ago. The YoloBox Original is a very nice device. It does not have a lot of the advanced features that we may be talking about now because it was made 6 years ago. It does what it does, but it doesn't have the other advanced features that the more expensive boxes have. So, and that's pretty much the same. If you buy the basic iPhone, it doesn't have 3 cameras. It only has 2 cameras, and etc. It doesn't have all those advanced features. Peter J. Milner says, I just wirelessly connect my YoloBox to a ZTE 5G router on the desk, hence why I like only one stream out and distribution on my RTM server when I have gigabit internet access. Yes, I connect actually everything here on the table is, except for the one doing the show. Everything here on the table is all wireless. So if we look at the overhead connection right here, there's no Ethernet in here. I have an in-stream, if we had an in-stream question, and this also is connected without Ethernet. So these are all wireless. I'm watching the content here, or I'm just double checking the feed on YouTube, and that laptop is on wireless. So we're all wireless within the studio itself, except for the main production YoloBox, which is out over here to the side. That one is actually plugged in via a cable. He says from Stream is in Trinidad. Do you have a helper or do you do this solo? I do this solo. It would be nice to have a helper to moderate the comments. And when people talk about doing sports scoreboards, which are built into the YoloBox, when people talk about doing sports scoreboards, it's like you can do it here, but if you're also switching cameras and trying to bring in comments and do sports scoreboards and do overlays and things like that, that's a lot to do, you know. Whereas scoreboard as an overlay and bring it in as you could bring it in as a web URL overlay and have that. Ooh, let's see if I can do that from Yolocast. And then here's my scoreboard done. And then I let it done. There it is. I'm gonna move done. And then I turn that on. And there it is. So, show, or this is my demo model. And the nice thing with using Yolocast, the graph included with every Yola Live account for free. The advantage of using these graphics right here is that you can then hand it off to someone else. And they would come over to Yolocast and one of these is the overlay lab. Oh, does my device have enough? My overlays. Oh, now I'm logged out. Okay, so I am going to log back in over time and make that work. But you can then hand that to another person on a laptop or a tablet, and they can handle score up, score down, the clock change, penalty, you know, all these different things that you could have in your custom scoreboard, because you can build your own. And they're focused on doing that while you just leave it up on the screen in front of you. And then that way, those graphics right there, you don't have to worry about. You can divide the task, but you can't divide audio mixing. You can't divide camera switching. It's all, the YoloBox is designed as a single person device so that all this stuff is right in front of you on this little tablet. So I am running the show by myself. I am doing the switching. I am bringing in the comments. I am doing the graphics. I set the stream, and hey, I think we're doing better. We only got a 2% drop right now. You missed Trinidad. I didn't miss Trinidad. I got Trinidad. Peter J. Milner says the Mini can be a guest into the Pro, and the Pro can be a guest into the Mini, I believe, as well, as long as they're all on the same account. And I think the original YoloBox can be a guest into the other devices, but I don't think you can bring a remote guest, a remote stream into the original. I have an original. We're going to answer this question live. I'm going to boot this up. We're going to find that out. Hello, chiming in from Edmund. Question, I would love the ability to preview a source audio not in the program. Is that all possible in a future update? That's sort of like being able to solo an audio source, and that's going to be a no. The audio mixer in the YoloBox is very basic, very straightforward. And the audio mixer in the original YoloBox is not a mixer, it's an audio selector. You can select one thing at a time. The audio mixer in the Pro and the Mini and the InStream can mix 3 different sources together, not a USB source. Can mix 3 sources together and give you an output, but you can't solo on top of mixing, because that's sort of like a whole separate audio thing going on there. And so that's not possible. If you wanted to solo something, then you would need to use an external mixer before feeding the audio into the, I'm going to duplicate here. So what I have overhead, I have the original YoloBox with inputs. I'm just going to create a demo show. Done. Create. And then we're going to go into demo show. You can see new show is this one. This is the one that's actually active, and you can see that I can see the show. But here, there are no other lecture. You know what? Let me actually do a live stream on this. Destination. Let me go to, I can't go to Facebook because whatever, it has to be re-verified. So we're going to do that. We're going to say go live, done. And you know what? We'll probably take off the sports scoreboard because we're not really using it. Oh, it's not a sports scoreboard. Take that off. Go to the audio mixer, turn on my HDMI. There we go. Now I got my audio. And then I am streaming here. Let's come back out, turn this back on. And you can see it actually does have live stream source in the original YoloBox. Now it is limited in that there's only one picture-in-picture, one split view, one side-by-side. But you can bring in images. That was added because it was added to the Pro and then it was added to the original. And you can do live stream. Let's see if it can see. And there is my live show coming from this source. So let's bring this up. Say done. Single platform live mode. Okay, fine. Streaming mode, use the servers. Yes, let's do that. Now, let's come back. Live stream. There it is. Done. Single platform live mode. Not in single platform live mode, right? Well, I'm also not streaming it, but it should still let me add it. Nope. I'm just going to go back out. This is very curious because I am in multi-platform, even though I'm not streaming. Go back, and I'm trying to add. You can see it, but it's giving me a warning. So if I stream from here, no, I don't want to add, and I say go live. Yes. I mean, I literally have nothing on here. Let's bring up an image. Let's bring up that image. So now I am no sound. Yeah, I know, I got it. Now I'm supposedly streaming. Now, can I add a source? No. I would say you can't go down to the original, but the original can come in. Now that I'm streaming over here, I can come up here. I can say live stream. The demo show from my original will show up, and I am pretty that will then appear, because you can see this is the still image that I'm streaming. This is the live stream showing up over here. So this is now a source in my YoloBox Pro, but it's not working back to the original for whatever reason. So I know this is probably the audio answer, but I answered a different question. Can we have it so the audio follows video can be off? And it took I and several users 6 months of begging YOLO Live to default audio follows video to off, because we found that it's a setting where we wouldn't necessarily think of having to turn. A couple early shows where I go to the overhead camera, which is this one right here, and then all of a sudden no audio. Why? Because audio follows from that camera. So in order for me to do a show and be able to just select the overhead camera and for you to still have audio follow has to default to off. And then just like any audio mixer, you select. Can turn audio follows video on, but it defaults to off on the Pro and the Mini at this point. I think it still defaults to on the original. No, it's off. It defaulted to off because I didn't go into this panel yet. So thankfully it's off, but on the stream it still defaults. I can bring this one down here. The audio follows video still defaults to on the in-stream. So if you wanted to have, like, that camera has no audio, all of a sudden I've got audio, and if I switch back to this camera, now there's no audio. So I don't want audio follows video. I have to turn it off, and then I have to turn. I don't want USB audio. I want HDMI 2 audio. There it is. And then that's extra buttons to push to make sure that the audio stays on in a show. So audio follows video. You can't choose, but it defaults to off. Unless you have the instrument, it defaults to on. Why can't I schedule further than a week? To remove them. Two good questions. Why can't I schedule further than a week? If you do YouTube and you schedule it on YouTube, you can schedule more than a week. Built into the YoloBox, you're limited to a week. Facebook will only limit you to a week either way. If you try to schedule it on Facebook itself, not even a YoloBox, just you try to schedule a live with your webcam. So that's a limitation of the API. Why do screen comments blink when I try to remove them? They blink sometimes. Like comment on, and then I go to a different comment, it'll fade nicely. If I go to fade that comment off, it fades nicely. It's a bug that has been reported, and if you go to the Facebook group, at the very top of the Facebook group, feature requests and bug reports. And I believe that is a much reported bug report that the titles flicker. And it's not just comments, it's all the titles. And it's not, so it's well documented. Will remote guests be available on the YoloBox original? Never. Because marketing for any of the YoloBoxes, none of them ever touted a remote guest was going to be a feature. But because CPU power in the Pro and Mini, remote guest was added a year and a half after the box came out. It was never offered as this is, it's sort of like saying, you know, hey, you bought a 4-seat sedan and you, okay, 4 seats is great, engine's great, I'm driving around. And then a year later, they say, here's 5 more seats. Unfortunately, the original YoloBox does not have the CPU power because it's 6, technically, if you go back to when the engineering was designed, 7 years old. Asking a 7-year-old Android tablet to do something that was just added to a much higher end CPU 6 years later, it's not going to happen. When will comments show all 200 characters? That's a really good question. On the official YOLO Live user group. Because this show, your comments are an integral part of them all the time. The boxes are not designed to dynamically. Yes, there are times when a comment is like so large it would take up the whole screen and I'd be peeking. More comments, more characters would be great. And that's actually why I chose the font that I did. And remember, you can choose different fonts. If I go to here and I go to, I should do side by side, and I go into my comments, I'm actually streaming from both of these still. And I come in here, nobody's on there, and I come up to this. I can choose, like this one, it there. If I choose something bigger, I get less text because you can't the scale of the whole thing, but I can't change the scale of just the text in that box. If I choose, however, a font like Oswald that is more narrow number of characters, and I agree it would be nice to have all of the characters appear in the comment, or at least more than there are now. So there are the times that I would hit the end of, I'd have to cut off a comment would be less. So yes, I agree with you. It would be nice. Hector says, excelente, gracias, por favor. I'm watching from Sabah, Borneo. By the way, I'm using YoloBox Pro. Good job. Othoi. I apologize if that's wrong. Hello from Chicago. Good to see you again this week. Do you know if YoloBox Ultra's new powerful processor, the Ultra's 4K single input, is their capability to upconvert inputs or output 4K? Right now, and again, the Ultra, which if everyone hasn't seen, there's an Ultra right here, and the way and this model actually does not have any labels on it. I show you one of the other ones, you see, look, it's got labels on the ports. The Ultra, this is a pre-release model that was shown at IBC, Broadcasters Convention in Amsterdam. And so this is not done. I haven't even turned it on to like demo being done. Give it a whole nother month of work, maybe even more than a month. Will 4K single input, actually, the way it's marketed is it is a 4K switcher. which would indicate 4K HDMI inputs and 4K recording and 4K streaming. Of trying to stream in 4K. I have gear that will do 4K. I have, you know, vMix, and I have the top license on vMix, and I have big hung PCs. I could do 4K. I have had somebody ask about it once in all. I said, listen, what's your audience? Oh, you know, we're trying to reach kids. What are they watching on? They're watching on mobile devices. Are they? Is the screen big enough that their eye can resolve 4K even if the screen is 4K? And most display 4K video. Even if you select it, there's not enough pixel real estate for the human eye to resolve this. You gotta like make 4K like really big in order for your eye, and it has to be really close for your eye to see the increased detail. And then is the content you're streaming in 4K? Like if it was an Indian wedding, okay, yeah, then I definitely think 4K is of value there because there's so. But if it's just a corporate talking thing or a music concert or a parade or something like that, I'd say no. Doing a good solid stream, I think, is going to be way more valuable than doing it in 4K. And is designed to handle 4K, then it should be able to handle HD with ease. Because remember, it's not just your 4 cameras. It's any of your picture-in-picture views. It's any of your overlays and graphics and green screen. And all of this takes CPU. And by lowering from 4K processor, all this extra headroom to do all that extra stuff. Because when I show on the YoloBox Pro, I hit that limit because, you know, I had multiple cameras all trying to do green screen, and then you do overlay. I would add things up and my frame rate would go down. I would be down at 1624 frames a second instead of my beyond what the CPU in the Pro could do. I was with 3 green screens and multiple pictures in pictures. That's too much because it's designed as an HD mixer. And then I was saying, okay, HD and then do all this other stuff. Whereas the Ultra is designed as a 4K mixer. So if you do HD, now it has the headroom to do all that other stuff and still deliver, hopefully, 1080 PC. That would be my thing. Have you seen the FeelWorld L4 streaming device at IBC? I did not get to see the FeelWorld device at IBC. I will have to look that up. And the interesting thing is they were right down. I could see their booth from where I was at IBC. I just never got a chance to get there. Carlos, good to see you. Bonjour, Polibox Pro font vertical pour pas les plans. Vertical video in the Pro? The answer is no. The vertical device, because it's not just vertical or horizontal, it's an app and the in-stream, which, you know, the in-stream is designed so that the whole interface is vertical too, not just the camera. So here's my horizontal camera being fed to it, but all my inputs are vertical. If I go to my graphics are designed vertical. Everything is, it's like a whole different thing. Now, that said, the Ultra touted at IBC, it was said you can choose between vertical and horizontal on one device. So you could do a vertical event, you could do a horizontal event. The thing you can't do, because it has the vertical app or the horizontal app, either way, you can't do both. You can't have one switch and have it go out vertical and horizontal. Because that, I mean, that's really complex. Because if I'm doing vertical, then I would really want my picture of me in here. But if I'm doing horizontal, I also have to think about what's going on out here. And if I'm doing vertical and I have two people talking, now that vertical slice from the middle doesn't work. Now I need a vertical and horizontal show on one device is ill-advised, I would say. I am a solo shooter. I can't use Yolocast scoreboard options. I must use YoloBox Pro scoreboard. I would like to see some graphic improvements. Really use a gradient and scoreboard built into the YoloBox is designed to be simpler and easier to use because it's in this device that's also doing everything else. So for it to use a gradient and do transparencies and blends and things like that is asking the CPU to do more. And again, that's where you start running into hitting that ceiling. And as much as we would like it to use gradients and transparency, I don't think that's the built-in sports scoreboard. The purpose of the built-in sports scoreboard is for there to be a scoreboard, for it to be convenient and be built in, but also to be mathematically simple for the device to do internally. Whereas the scoreboard that's external PXP India or PKP India says, when will we get NDI in YoloBox? At IBC, we had an interview where everyone, just like this show, was able to write in, and people asked Frank, can we get NDI in the Pro? Again, I hold this up for input. Can we get NDI in the... They asked, can we get NDI in the Ultra? And Frank said they could look at. And if you look at what's been done with the Pro after it was after the fact, the bonding was added after the fact, the remote guests was added after the fact, auto switching was added after the fact, audio mixing was added after it was released. Originally, it didn't do audio mixing either. So there's so much of what the Pro does that was not. But when the Pro came out, none of those things were Pro features. They just didn't exist. And I think the same will be transpose all of what the Pro can do into the Ultra. You know, make sure that's all stable and good. And then over the course of time, additional things can be added to the Ultra. Different things were added to the Pro. And Frank also noted, you know, because people says, oh, well, once the Ultra comes out, you're not going to. Well, the fact that this year, 6 years after the original YoloBox came out, there was an update with a bunch team of YOLO Live. But YOLO Live has proven that they support the older products. They continue to provide updates and features for the older products. So I do not think that the Ultra shipping at the end of this year will continue to evolve over the course of time. And of course, because now I said it in a video, we can refer to this 2 years from now. iPhone 15 Pro now has a USB-C port. Now that you think the YoloBox may be able to use a 15 as a USB-C camera. If you go back, I actually did a live show, and I have a tutorial video on using devices, remote guests as cameras. So graphic overlay, audio mixing, 3 ways to optimize multi-stream. Oh, that's the bottom of the list. Let's go all the way up the top. How to turn your cell phones into wireless cameras. And the way I did it was I used my iPhone, and I had to a Apple TV, which was my receiver. It's cheaper than any other wireless receiver, and it's fully sanctioned. So the iPhone is casting directly to or through Wi-Fi over to the Apple TV, which is then HDMI into my YoloBox. And you could do that with multiple devices, and you can have multiple phones wandering around. So that's not using remote guests. out the internet. So you could do that even where you have no internet. You could cast directly. You may still have to set up a Wi-Fi hotspot in the area for these to connect to each other over your own local network, but you don't have to have access to the internet to do that. Any question for a vendor or manufacturer, reason to apply short 6 to 12-inch HDMI male to HDMI female cables? And I don't know if a male to female cable, that's just sort of like extending a cable. I use them, and actually I am using a monoprice cable right here on the in-stream. So this cable right here is, yeah, you could, I'll unplug it. You can see right here, it's got the little I'm using, and it may be a whole foot long, but I do have short 6-inch cables from them as well. And that is going into, good, if I wanted to appear in front of that, I could, picture in picture, I could put it right here. Let's change the border thickness to nothing and make me really big. Done. I should probably reselect this one next, this one next. Did I do that right? No, I did it wrong. So you can swap really big. There we go. So that this way I can point the output of the in-stream. So I'm using the output, the HDMI out of the in-stream into vMix, which is coming in this way, rotate it, put it over to the side, put a border around it, put a background behind it, and then I'm bringing that in, or I'm bringing it into my sub switch so that I could then, you know, talk about what's going on here on the in-stream. If there were in-stream questions, I try to be prepared for multiple things going on in there. I thought everyone at YOLO Live was on a holiday. Well, everyone at YOLO Live may be, but again, I am an independent producer. I am based in Dallas, Texas. I am not in China. So yes, it is a week-long China holiday. Have fun, everybody. It's their Labor Day or whatever it is. Great. I am based here in Dallas, Texas, and I'm an independent producer. I of tutorials and these live shows, but I am not part of YOLO Live directly. So I'm working. Rakumar says, hi. Stream frigging, why? 9%. It's a second, and it depends on the background what my megabit per second is. And it says I am dropping frames, and that is probably what's going on in my local area as well. Local internet supplier saying that they are doing work in the area overnight. So maybe they're updating stuff. Maybe I can count on better upload speeds. My 5G plus, not sure 4G SIM card from my phone is not working on my YoloBox Pro. Any support coming for 5G with a software update? No. There's no software update for 5G because 5G is different bands which require different modems and require of different lengths to communicate on those bands. Which is why if you have an AM radio, it has that little ferrite antenna. If you have an FM radio, it has a whip. If you have a 2.4 gig, it's really short. The antennas, and there are many antennas, are on specific bands that are unique to 5G. So you can't software update what hardware provides. Also, the modem in there is not doing the protocols that 5G uses. So there's no 5G. And also at IBC, Frank, the Ultra, because it has no label on the back yet. The Ultra will likely not be. The 4G modems are readily available, very cost effective to use. The 5G modem adds another $100 or so to the device, whereas for those people who need 5G, if you need more 5G on the Ultra, you could do this, and then you could have dual multiple 5G bonding. And in reality, there's caveats. If you're streaming, 5G offers faster speeds for download. We're not downloading, we're uploading. 5G offers faster speeds, but if you're only streaming at 5G go from 20 to 50, doesn't change the fact that you're still only streaming at 5. Lastly, if 5G is available in an area and a bunch of cell phones all connect on 5G, what that really is that's 4G tower now has additional capacity to handle your stream. So there's no need to run where everyone else is running. What you do is you wait here a little bit, and this area becomes a little clearer. How to take the USB output feature in YoloBox has, let me fire one up. The YoloBox Mini has a USB output, and you could use the USB as display port into your computer. And it is a way that you could use that as a source into like Zoom or one of the other tools. If you wanted to use the Yolo software package, like if you have a Logitech camera, Logitech offers a you mix different things, do picture-in-picture, add graphics on the computer, and then it takes the output of that app called Capture and runs it into whatever software you want. So you could do it all without. But if you wanted to use a separate device, you could take the USB out, and there's one setting, go to overhead. There's one setting on here for the USB out that lets you flip horizontal, because sometimes when you 10 is backwards, like my shirt is technically backwards, but because the camera's facing me, it's already flipped. If you want to flip it again so that people watch, but generally what it does, there's not any other specific settings for sending out the USB computer. Power off. This is a long one. I just recorded an entire game lasting 4 hours onto an SD card. I can see all the footage successfully recorded on my YoloBox Pro. However, the SD card when inserted into detect and is not mounted. Same thing happens to my Windows laptop as well. Any idea? exFAT, as you probably well know, should be detected and loaded onto Windows and Mac without issue. It is a very common file format. On the YoloBox means it is there. You just need to get the computer to. My suggestion would be to use a different reader. I have had issues where SD cards were a little finicky. The reader built in, sometimes it won't work, and I have to use a different reader, and then it might work. Also, there have been times I've used a camera. I've taken the SD card into a camera, connected the camera to the computer via USB, and the camera acts as the reader, but the camera also does a better job at accepting the file format of the media, and then it's just passing on a USB connection. Hopefully that can get you situated. It is showing up in Disk Manager, and don't format it, but see if there's a first aid you can do. I know sometimes when I plug in a USB stick, this USB stick needs to be repaired. And I say repair, and it just shows up. I don't know what it does, but it does something. Do you remember using YoloBox Pro with Atmos Ninja? Sure, you can use Atmos Ninja. People do use the Ninja because of the video out, and the video out is not pre-compressed. It's sort of like pass through, so it has not been through the encoder in the YoloBox. So you could stream and record internally at 4 megabits, but then record externally at 100 and have a very pristine external recording. People who do that because they like to have a very high quality master, and the YoloBoxes that are currently available, all of them only have one encoder, so that single encoding is what you stream and what you record. The YoloBox Ultra encoders, and that will let you stream at 5, record at 50. So the Ultra, that's another thing that they're looking at with the Ultra, and it's, you know, when people ask for features enough, they hear that and they try to do what they can in the YoloBox, the next generation of YoloBox. They make those things happen. YoloBox had 2 HDMIs and could do certain things, and then they upgraded. Came out with 3 HDMIs because people wanted more connections, and it could do more. And the YoloBox Ultra has 4 HDMIs. I mean, eventually we're going to have 8 HDMIs on this thing. It's just going to be a massive tablet. And I'm kidding. I don't know. Anyway, the point of the encoding and multicasting is, for those who don't already know, you can multicast in the YoloBox, and that is one of the features that has been available since the very, very beginning. And right this way, boom. And if I come over here and I say I'm going to go to a destination, remember we have the defaults to the single platform stream. That means I can send it from my YoloBox, whatever I want, YouTube, Facebook, RTMP, whatever. It's direct. The YoloBox, YOLO Live is not involved at all. However, if you do use YOLO Live's multi-streaming service, it's going to work if I pause. Done. If I come over here to share, yeah, see, when I say pause, it, you know, it's not paused anymore, it's cut off. I can go to multiple. Now it's not going to let me go to Facebook because now it's, you know, every 3 months you got to like re-verify your account. Go to here. I can send to multiple destinations. I can go to 3 destinations from the YoloBox. This show is going to 3 destinations from a single YoloBox, from a single source. And those 3 destinations are YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. I'm going to LinkedIn via RTMP. So it can be via the built-in APIs. This is software that those companies provide. It can go via the APIs or an RTMP. So I could go to there. I can go 1, 2, 3. This is an RTMP, and that could be manually set to anything you want. You know, it could be Boxcast, it could be Vimeo, it could be anything. You could go to 2 different YouTubes because they're built in channels. That's how you can do it with this. If you use the multicasting feature in Yolocast, you can go to up to 15 stations. Now again, you only have 3 APIs, but you can RTMP to a bunch of other things. And that is built in. You don't have to do anything extra. The best part is if I'm streaming at, I say 5 megabits. My show is at, let's just say 5 megabits, makes the math easy. I'm not sending 5, 10, 15 megabits, I'm sending 5 because it's only sending one stream up to the Yolocast servers. They provide the server that takes this source and sends it out to a bunch of different places for free. It's included. And that saves you a bunch of headache because, you know, I always say you should have double the than your stream. So if I'm doing a 4 megabit stream, I want to see at least 8 megabits. If I'm doing 15, that would mean I'd need to have 30. For me to feel comfortable trying to push 3 streams, I want to see 30 minimum 30. You know, I want to see above 30, but 30 minimum, because so by bundling all 3 of these as one upload at 5 megabits, that gives me a lot more headroom and a lot less worry. So that's one of the really cool features, feature that is built into every single YoloBox. And the in-stream kind of gets a little bit of this as well, because let me go to the vertical and go over here. If we're on the in-stream, you know, we have the ability to go to multiple things. So if I am, let me close this, close out of that. You can tell I don't use the in-stream as much. But if I was going to Instagram, and here I am in Instagram, and I was streaming in Instagram, I could add a second output in addition to Instagram and TikTok at the same time. So that is a very handy feature that is built into the in-stream as well. And this multicasting feature is something that doesn't really, you know, it's hard to like really explain what the advantage is. Less headache. You know, it's a hard thing to really, who already pay for an external service like Restream or Caster or any other services, stream to send it out to multiple places. First, Yolocast can do the same thing, but you have YoloBox Pro, the Mini, and the original YoloBox without having to do anything extra. Let me stop this stream, or I'll pause it. And then, so here you can go over here, and I can turn on, and I can set 3 different locations in the original YoloBox. They've been doing this for years, 6 years with the original one, 3 destinations. And again, you're only sending the one stream and it's being split in the cloud, which is a fantastic way to help ensure resiliency. So let's scroll down in the comments as we near. Oh, somehow that just decided to play on its own. YoloBox Pro DP only work on the Ninja V. DisplayPort out only works to the Ninja V. Yes. So one of the key things is if you want to, you can convert this USB-C port from data to be a display port. So it will actually use this as another video out. It'll be the same thing, and I think it's exclusive. You either use the HDMI or you use the display port. You don't use both of them. You don't get 2 hardware outputs. It is stronger to use the live guest audio that would come from the video source live stream or from a combinator or a YoloBox or one of the cameras connected as an HDMI source. Is it stronger? I would always go for local audio because any remote guest has to go all the way to the internet and back. Also, if you're just using a phone, as I did in last week's show, the phone. So I connected a wireless lavalier to the audio Come on, sorry, got a bunch of gear on the table now. The iRig that went into here, so you're adding a bunch of stuff, and it's easier to, if you have a wireless, to feed the receiver XLR into the camcorder and then zip it back that way. I would say that is way more reliable through a camcorder XLR connection into the HDMI or wireless. If you're running an, is it better to use the Blackmagic ATEM to stream direct while using the YoloBox automatic switching rather than ATEM manual switching? It's 4 HDMI inputs to the YoloBox. That's your choice. They both do streaming. The ATEM does not do sending one destination. It's not going to send to multiple things. It doesn't use APIs. It just does the RTMP. And it doesn't have, I don't believe it has auto switching and things like that. But the Yolo, the ATEM has a much better audio mixer. It has Fairlight built in. It has EQ, filtering, and there's no comparison that the ATEM has better audio and what the audio can do in the ATEM. Now, switching and graphics scenarios, so you might even do all of your switching on, then bring it over to the YoloBox as one input. This is my finished thing, stream it out, and then maybe add graphics in the YoloBox. You have a lot of audio and that's your focus, then doing that in the ATEM. Now, again, with the ATEM, you don't really have a whole lot of audio controls on the device. You need a laptop connected to a network, which is connected to the ATEM, which is connected, you're really expanding the amount of stuff. And the YoloBox is designed to be streaming in your pocket. So that's why it doesn't do all of this stuff. It doesn't require a laptop to use it. This is designed to fit in your pocket. And actually it does fit in my pocket. And that's why, but if you have a production that demands that level of control, then picking the right tool for the task that you need it is absolutely warranted. The reason I have this overhead camera goes through an ATEM, and I have an ATEM next to me so that I can switch between the ATEM, I can switch between my laptop, I can switch between the in-stream, I can switch between the output of the Pro. That's 4 more inputs. I don't have that many multi-views in the Pro. So being able to have one multi-view, this one, and switch what's over there using an outside switcher makes this work much better for me. Again, this is a good solution for me. May not be a great solution for other people, but this is a good solution for me. And I actually did a live show, you can scroll back in the live shows, about using an ATEM with the YoloBox. They complement each other very, very well. Box should switch option single device. Yeah, that's not going to happen. The YoloBox Ultra when you choose between horizontal and vertical, it's going to load the appropriate app. And when you load vertical, it's doing everything vertical. When you load horizontal, if you bring up a lower third, if I stand here and I say, if I come over here, let's see if I have one of these. Or yeah, here. Okay, you have to realize that this one is starting at this end of the frame, but if it's vertical, it needs to start here. And in programming the app, you could just say, well, just put it in the middle. Well, remember, this is 1920 across. In vertical, it's only 1080 across. So what is the middle? What number is the middle? That number is different depending on what size of frame you have. So it's basically 2 completely different. When you have different graphics in different places, let's just say this one, putting that one up there is a challenge because, I'm off to the side. This works great horizontally. It doesn't work great vertically because then I'm cut off. Or am I over here? Or is a horizontal and a vertical show at the same time with the same really a challenge. The 2 mindsets to make the best vertical and the best horizontal are 2 completely different ways of framing things, arranging graphics, and picture side by side like this in a horizontal frame. In Instagram and TikTok, it's so much better to put them vertically over top of each other, have 2 people stacked. Well, there's not a stack in horizontal. So I disagree that it's best to do them both. I think it's best to separate them and have 2 different people doing 2 different designs for 2 different markets, because you have to remember, different markets watching on vertical aren't going to want a horizontal show kind of like chopped up and move around. Although that's tentatively a program coming up in the future. Let me go back to the comments. Hypothetically, you could connect 3 YoloBox Pros into one Pro and stream from there. That would give ultimate flexibility and multiple inputs easily and quickly. YoloBox Pros into a Pro. That's 4 Pros. Really gaining well, you're gaining more CPU horsepower, that's for sure. Because when I tried to have one Pro do 3 green screens, as well as take a USB-C input, as well as do the graphics, it was overwhelming. So having each one do a source is kind of like overkill, but it's doable. I believe that does come up. I do appreciate you all being here. Let me just do the same as Anthony Pro, because I am your host for the show every week. And again, it's an open show. It's all about streaming. Yes, we talk about YoloBox, but we talk about bad internet and things like that. And I welcome questions that aren't related to the YoloBox. And if you are into YoloBox and don't already know, there's an official YoloBox user group in Facebook where the YOLO Live team in China, when they're not on a national holiday, are involved and ask questions. If you are a Spanish-speaking user, there's a YoloBox en Español, and that makes it easy to converse in I think it's the second most spoken language around the world. And if you want to speak to YOLO Live directly, there's contact at yololive.com. If you're watching on Facebook, know that we are also live on YouTube, and there's a whole YOLO Live tech channel with all of the videos, live streams, Yolocast information, in-stream series of videos to help running and make the most of your YOLO Live tools. I appreciate you all being here, and I love doing this show. And it's a user-driven show, and I love having this dialogue from. And let's see how big today's show was. Yeah, we got a good crowd today, and I appreciate you all watching, and I will look forward to seeing you. I'm going to have a good topic next week. I don't remember what it is offhand, but I know it's a good topic because I went ahead and planned the next few weeks together. My name is Anthony Barocas. I am here in Dallas, Texas, and I will look forward to seeing you all next week.